All right, so Vivek, what are you seeing in Los Angeles that makes you think the Democrats care about law and order?
Well, they don't, Jesse. That's clear. But I'll tell you this. I know Gavin Newsom. I actually happen to like him as a person. The reality is he's not going to like what I have to say on this, which is that his behavior is starting to resemble that of another Democratic governor from U.S. history by the name of George Wallace, who was the governor of Alabama, who famously stood in the way of federal desegregation. And in 1963, President John F. Kennedy had to deploy the National Guard of Alabama, just like President Trump is doing today. And I know that's counterintuitive to some people, but the parallels are actually pretty striking if you think about it. Democrat governors, when you look at George Wallace, he resisted desegregation. Gavin Newsom is resisting deportations. George Wallace wanted segregated cities. Gavin Newsom wants sanctuary cities. George Wallace stood in the school door blocking the way. Gavin Newsom is blocking the ICE vans. It's the same Democrat governor playbook. You dodge the feds, you rally the radicals, and most importantly of all, you do it in front of the cameras, because what they were both doing is really carving their Democratic primary path for their presidential ambitions. And Jesse, you can mark my words on this one. Gavin Newsom's presidential ambitions are going to end in the same place that George Wallace's did, in the dustbins of history where it belongs. That's just the truth.
Well, he's calculating that this confrontation with Trump right now could maybe win him the Democrat nomination. It would absolutely cost him in the general, but at least it would get him the nomination. That's his calculation.
Well, that might have been George Wallace's calculation too, and we all saw how that story ended. And it's a bit of a shame because I don't know how much George Wallace believed that any much as Gavin Newsom does today. A few months ago, he was trying to portray himself as a moderate, now sees an opportunity to use this confrontation to get a bunch of national attention. And I think that's actually what's tearing our country apart. It's also what shows, Jesse, the importance of states leading the way, or what state leadership is actually about, what it ought to be about. Look at the direction of California. The communist republic of the West Coast now has lost its mind. This is a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing in the state of Ohio, which I'm proud of, to show what a different model actually looks like. And I think it's a good reminder that state and local leadership actually does make a difference to the country. Sadly, it's in an unfortunate way that Gavin Newsom has laid that example for the rest of us. But I think it allows us to say, you know what, when states lead the way, the country's actually stronger when we also follow the rule of law in the United States of America. And as the kid of legal immigrants to this country, I think most Americans, including those legal immigrants, are actually united in their opposition to illegal immigration. And most Americans are smart enough to tell the difference.
How many illegal immigrants do you think are in LA County? 1 million?
Look, the fact of the matter is, under the Biden administration, because we had those porous borders, we lost track in this country. I think there are quite possibly, you're looking at 8-figure numbers nationally, tens of millions possibly illegal immigrants across the country. But the reality is this country was founded on the rule of law. That is part of who we are as Americans. That is what unites us. That's actually what draws many of the people who come to this country legally in the right way to contribute to this country, is their love of that rule of law. And I think that's something that I don't care whether you're historically a centrist Democrat or Republican, black or white, most people in this country, 80% of us, agree on this. And I think Gavin Newsom is going to go down on the wrong side of this issue, just as George Wallace did 60 years ago. And history is going to look back and say, you know what? America's proud when we stood for the rule of law. Do it with dignity, do it with respect, but do it firmly, because that's what this country was founded on. If we embrace that, we're going to be successful.
All right, well said, Vivek. Good to speak with you. Good luck in Ohio. Thank you so much. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.